Hello, today we will be talking about the STR function and the common data types experienced in R programming. The STR function is a very useful function. Essentially, the STR function will give you information about the structure of a data frame. Let's take a look at this code below. So right here, we see that the first line is just calling the STR function. To call the STR function, you simply use STR followed by the brackets and the name of your data frame. The output of calling the function is list of two, meaning the dataset has two components. The next line starts with a $sign, which highlights the fact that it is beginning to describe the first component out of two components. So here it tells you there are two rows with 6 columns. So here it goes rows, first is rows, then the next is columns. So you have 2 rows, then 6 columns. Alright, so moving on the next line we see that it starts off with dots. So the dots just mean that you're still describing the first function or the first component, and you have yet to move on to the second component, which is down here. So the attr is just giving you the attributes of the function. Once again, telling you that it has two components here, and the dimnames, which is the names of the columns. So the next line starts with the next $sign, meaning that it's saying that the next two lines simply give you the values that are in the data set at length 2, which are the columns, like we said, the 2 columns, and then 6, which are the rows. So first row, second row, third row, fourth row, fifth row, sixth, and sixth row, because there are 6 of them. So that's all these two lines are doing. And then when we indent back to this initial position, and we have the $sign starting again, now we're starting to describe the second component of the data frame. So if the STR function is still not clear for you, go ahead and click this link. I have it in the description. Very good website. It should be able to tell you and explain the STR function in a more clear fashion if I didn't do a good enough job. However, now we'll begin talking about data types. So there are some certain data types that you'll be seeing. So scalars, vectors, numerical, which are integers, characters, which are strings and letters, logical, which are boolean values, so true, false, and null, and then matrices, which are the groups of numbers, data frames, which are groups of numbers and letters and words, and then lists. Lists are just like normal lists, just as we know it in our day-to-day lives. Can contain numbers, can contain words, and both. Alright, so let's move down. We see that we start off with matrices. So here's the general format of a matrix. So you have my matrix equals, you're defining it as matrix, vector, the number of rows, the number of columns, and then if you want it by row or not, so that's, you define whether it's false or true. So if you put it true, that means that by row will be filled by rows, and if you put it false, then it'll be filled by columns. And then dim names here is just giving you the optional if you want to name your columns or rows. So arrays are just matrices with two dimensions, so you can just use the same functions that are used up here. So data frames are a little more general than a matrix. They're not as specific, and in that the different columns can have different modes. So they can have new numbers, letters, and factors. So here you have one component is here, one component is here, one component is here. However, the data frame is all together. So you have D, E, and F. So D is just is a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then E is another list with strings, red, white, red, and then F is a factor with the logical operators true, 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 and false. So then the whole data frame is all of that together, but it contains all of these integers, strings, and the Boolean values. So let's see. So once again here we're defining a list. So we create a list here, my list, and then after you create it with my numbers, you can call out a specific component from that list. So this is the second component. It counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like us. So for example, lists are fairly important. So let's see, we can make X the name of the list, and then you can go ahead and go here, and X is equal to, you would simply do list Pranav Rajan is, and then we can throw in a integer value, 16 years old. And then, so the X is defined as that list, and we can go ahead and call out a specific one. So if you want my name, you can call one. Oops, that's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be X. And then if you want to call my whole name, we can call out 2, and then let's just run this part. So in console, we can see after I defined the list, we had X equals list, and then Pranav Rajan is 16 years old. Then we called out the 1. So 1 gave us that the first value, Pranav, and then the second value we called X2, and we got Rajan, my last name. So that's pretty straightforward. Just remember you have to use double square brackets there to get the values out, just like they did here, second component of the list, and they use two brackets. So here are some useful functions that maybe you should know when dealing with data frames and data types in general. So length of an object, no matter what the object is, string, numbers, or anything, matrices, all of them, you can find the length of the object by just typing length, and then the name of the object should go in here. And then STR, once again, we talked about previously, giving you the structure of the object. Class, you probably won't use that option. Names, that often, but names are pretty important. Names you're probably going to want to know because it's going to help you like find the names of the columns or rows that you're looking at. And combining objects into a vector is very useful as well. And then just printing out the object name is just going to, give you the values from the object. So yeah, if you're still having some trouble, go ahead and click this link. And once again, they do have a free interactive introduction to our course that you can click here. That'll take you to a place where you could practice the basics and see if you can, that'll help you out a bit. But it's pretty straightforward, and I'll continue to do examples like this to help you guys out. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.